And welcome. Welcome to the Women's Wisdom Circle. I don't know how many people are going to be watching later on. I know that a few of us might join us. So I just want to include whoever is going to join us on the recording because I know some people are working at that time in North America or still sleeping. So I just want to include them in our circle, and our discussion can continue on the event page if need be. And before we do a short meditation, since this event is also public, I just want to give a little introduction about who we are and what we are intending to bring through our circle. This whole idea of creating a women's circle and tapping into the wisdom of women who have lived and have already had a good journey of healing behind them came for me out of a total helplessness in January after a trip to Pakistan, seeing in a magnified way, the the difficulties that our world is facing. And what happened in Paris also in January, I mean, triggered and touched myself so deeply that I say I can no longer stand by, and I certainly don't have the answers myself. I cannot heal the world on my own. I can only heal myself. And what I noticed is emerging since we started those hangouts in February, I believe we started them, is the topic has been a lot about self-care, about learning to take care of ourselves first and foremost. And that might create a ripple of balance in our families, in our communities, and eventually in the world. So it has to start with what we have learned in terms of taking care of ourselves, because we have been caretakers of others for a good part of our lives and have turned out on the awareness on ourselves when we realize how out of balance we can get at times when we get lost in those patterns of caretaking. And out of this emerged about a month ago the need to take that a little deeper, and we created that Facebook group on radical self-care that a number of us and some of us are not on the Hangouts but have joined the group from Facebook. And there's been some active journaling and active sharing going on, and a lot of learning emerging amongst us about how we can help each other and how we can heal each other. And what part of that group, I had also committed to create a hangout a week, and including the Women's Wisdom group, who might not be in the Facebook, who might not listen, who might not comment on the Facebook group, but at least include them and combine this with the regular Women's Wisdom circle that we're having usually every 2 weeks. Right now, that's a rhythm that feels comfortable until something else emerges out of that space. So just before, or I will start the meditation right now, a grounding meditation, so we can connect to the heart, and then I will invite each of you to share what has been emerging for you in this last week, because that's really also what this is about, this radical self-care, focused attention on the self. And what do I mean by the self here? Let me just qualify that. When I'm talking about self-care, it's the self with a capital S. It's the soul. It's that divine part that lives in the heart of each human being. The divine divinity that resides in the heart of everyone. And that we are sometimes so disconnected from when we are lost in the patterns of our conditioning, which run the mind, which are the thoughts. And I will have more to say on that after we have done the meditation, but for now I just want to connect to the heart so we can allow whatever is emerging from our experience of the last week to speak through us. So, ladies, just taking a few deep breaths together. Deep breath in, connecting to the breath, allowing the breath to settle any erratic thoughts, any stress of the day, just allowing the breath to ground us. Imagine you're grounding by visualizing a pair of roots, virtuous roots, connecting you to the center of the earth, deep down into the heart of the earth. And allowing that energy of the earth, that nourishing energy, grounding energy, to move in to your body and fill you. Filling your legs, your torso, your back, your arms and hands, your head. And imagine that energy shooting out to the top of your head, connecting with the other point of connection, the cosmic energies. And imagine that source of energy could be the sunshine or a star shining down a light on the top of your head, connecting to that central column of light that is where our divine core harbors. Just imagine that light connecting with that column of light located approximately between the spine and the heart, anchored deep into the earth, so becoming that antenna, grounded to the earth, connected to the stars. And allowing the guidance of the immensity that we are part of, the field that we live in. We are much more than the physical body in which that energy resides and has a unique expression through each of us. So just allowing that grounding to take a hold of your imagination. And taking a moment to connect with what the last week has brought to your awareness, what healing has begun through that focused awareness of the need to take care of that precious part of our being that is often neglected, overridden by outdated thoughts of have-tos and shoulds. Just allowing what wants to emerge through the collective field to speak when we come out of the meditation. Just taking one more moment. Anchor to what is emerging. And from that place of connection in the heart, just imagine we are also connected in a virtual circle around the world, holding our virtual hands as we allow that energy to circulate, to impact us, to further heal us, and to bring more awareness to the process. And just taking another deep breath and gradually disconnecting from the virtual hands and connecting back to your space in the physical universe, wherever you are sitting. And another deep breath, coming back to normal consciousness, and at your own pace, opening your eyes and being present again in the hangout room. So, I will begin by sharing what has been emerging for me. And then I've really been very interested to hear what you have to say from your own experience of this last week. All I can say is this week has been intense, intense, intense as far as this process has been for me. Just the stepping up to creating that group and focusing on publicly, because I've been healing on that issue for seems to be my whole life. But doing this publicly and revealing certain things publicly has brought up at first anxiety and angst and choking feelings that was like almost out of this world, you know, and like it brought up those patterns with a vengeance. I had no other choice but to go with what is coming along. You know, I could not do anything else. I could not think of all the tools I know and all the nice things that I wanted to express and say and all the shoulds that I should have done. I should have written every day much more. I just couldn't. I was carried by the wave of what was overtaking me, and I went along with it. And the next day, it started last Wednesday for me, because I started posting certain things on Wednesday. And then on Friday, I was guided to be on, actually I had signed up way earlier. You know, it's like this is the way guidance brings information to you when they are appropriate. I mean, you're never given information that you're not ready to handle, because now is the time. And what came for me is a teleseminar that was another one of those extremely, extremely important and powerful clearing on investigating the source of those patterns of the victim oppressor, and dating back to the Inquisition. This is the Middle Ages, and I've had memories of having been living in that part of the world, actually having been victimized in that part of the world. But I had never thought that perhaps I also, in some of my lifetimes, had been an oppressor. So it was like balancing that clearing was a balancing of that whole field of that pattern that has been running my whole life. And when I woke up the next day after that clearing, I had throughout my whole body, I had the feeling of I was exuding of that anxiety and that fear. It was coming out of my skin, literally. And you know, it lasted about 24 hours where I was totally gripped by it. I could not think anything else. It was that I was gripped by it, totally gripped by it. And what usually helps me shift is when I go into water. You know, water and drinking a lot help me swimming and connecting. You know, because when I'm outdoors, I'm always connected. So that was really very helpful. And then this pattern came up again with issues with my computer. That helplessness, that you know, it was just overwhelming. But by then, I was consciously taking steps to get help and taking action, but still had to go through it again. And then last night, again, after a day of a lot of those things emerging in my field, I went again for a swim. And that was like the most extraordinary experience of connection that I can remember in a long time. It was I was swimming at dusk, you know, like between and dusk is early in this part of the world. It's around just before 7 o'clock. And at one point, sun had set for a while already. I felt like a presence, and I had to get my head out of the water. I was doing like some some strolling, and what I noticed is three kittens, three similar kittens, you know, brothers and sisters probably. Hi Bridget, we're just sharing, and they were looking at me, and they were. I was so startled because that had never happened to me, you know. So I stopped and I started talking to the kittens, and they had a message for me. I mean, I'm still overwhelmed by the experience when I think about it. And the message then, after I'd done my exercise swimming, I just lied there for the longest of time, floating on my back, connecting to a star. And it was like the message was loud and clear. I have to speak about those things that I have been so scared to speak about, and I know a lot, and I've been guided repeatedly in the last 2 months to information that needs to be spoken about, and I was scared still. So this is what has been emerging for me. And what I realized also last night, I re-listened to that clearing that I had done on Friday, and this time I heard things I had not heard the first time. And what I heard, and I think this applies to many women in our community, is that at one point we might have made, I'm saying might because I cannot know for sure, but it certainly rings true for me, a vow of chastity, of poverty, and of obedience. And it's time to heal those vows. They are outdated. It's time to step up and share all the healing that we have done with the world with more women who might still be stuck there because they don't know. Because systematically in the last 2 months, I have been guided to watch certain programs. And when I got the information, it allowed me to heal another piece that was stuck in another pattern, was healing a little bit more, that I was daring to reveal a little bit more of my whole self, rather than thinking, what will people say if I say this? You know, the fear of judgment, the fear of being ridiculed, the fear of being said, ha 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 ha, you believe this, you're a fool, because this is how we are being conditioned and put into a normalized way of talking, and we cannot express our full truth because of those fears. And I have released big part of it. I'm not sure if I released everything, but this has been my experience for that first week of that challenge of really placing the light of awareness onto my consciousness. And this time, being diligent whenever it was emerging, rather than getting lost in there for months on time, I was listening to what was wanting to emerge, and I finally got it yesterday, last night. So thank you for listening, and now I'm going to shut up and I'm going to listen to what is emerging from you. Hello, Bridget from New Zealand. Lovely to see you.
Thank you. I was struggling to connect. I was listening to you on the video on the YouTube, but then I found a little link and I managed to join. So yeah.
Yeah. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
Hi, Bridget and Fiona. Nice to have you here.
This is Fiona.
Fiona.
Hi, Fiona. I got a little message that there was someone on this Google Hangout that I didn't know, and it said your name was Fiona. So
I know.
I'm living in the UK, but I did live in Australia for a few years, so not too far away from New Zealand.
No.
What is emerging for you after this week? I really would like to know what has been transpiring for each of you. I know already, but this is a time where we can also integrate. So this is the space to do that. And I appreciate what has done for me, integrating quite a number of my outdated stuff and now having a clearer sense on how to move forward. Fiona, you want to speak? I see your lips moving. Go ahead.
It's very synchronistic, what you've just said, because it really resonated with me, certain parts of it, and particularly the connection with the kittens, because last night there was a little kitten. I do have a little cat, but there was a little cat, small kitten, came to my cabin, and she was looking in, and I was like, oh well, I've got my cat, and I put this out. I said, I've got my cat, and she's tiny, and I love her, but I'm not really into cats. So this little cat's come into my life now, and she's looking. And then my son said, well, something's happened to the rubbish, and there's somebody being wrote, in the rubbish. And then we both synchronistically knew it was that little kitten or little cat that needed food. So I put the food out there for her, and I just felt a really strong connection. And it was almost like a message. It was saying to me, no, you can connect with everything. And that was an old pattern that I really just realized. And because I've been looking at money, and I've looked at the money archetype, and I had a very powerful session on that, it's brought back to me a very, very deep-rooted, and I think it is past life as well, seed that has said to me, no, you do not deserve abundance. Give away your meditations, give away your work. Your husband is providing for you. And when I did the archetype session with a very, very wonderful young person, she really, really challenged me on this fact that I had something there that is very, very deep, and I don't like it. I'm very vulnerable with it. I don't feel, part of me is knowing that this is an illusion, and I can come into my cabin, I can go in nature, I can connect with the water energy, and I have the tools. But the other part of me is going, no, I don't want to face up to this, and so being part of the space that you've provided for us is so, the vulnerability that you've shared with us is just so powerful, and I feel such a strong connection with the people on the group. But even those old patterns were coming up for me, like when I was making a comment to somebody that I didn't not necessarily know, was thinking, well, I don't want to upset them, I don't want to hurt them, you know. And that was another pattern that sometimes that I put that part of me away. You know, I stopped when I was working in corporate and I was coaching. My coaching was so powerful because I just said it with compassion, and that part of me has sort of said, well, you've got to be kind, you've got to be nice, and then so I'm in a, you really, the group is supporting me in that journey, and what I'm also learning is to let people in to help me and ask for help, because really my top archetype in the money thing was the nurturer, and when I actually said the words that were the nurturer, I wasn't passionate about them anymore. I was more passionate about the alchemist and the magic. So it was being true to myself, and that's what you know, that you know, true to myself. And also what me just this moment when you were talking about the work that you've done about the position. A lot of the time when I've done past life work, I just really felt it really quickly. That the word that came through for me was obedience. And it's like I always looking for the veil to please, to serve, as if I'm a servant, and I'm not a servant. You know, I'm not even a servant to divine energies. I choose whether I take the steps forward. And also, well, it's just, I just feel so much healing coming from it. And you're such a wise, and I just want to applaud you for stepping up and really the work that's coming through now is almost like we've been told, get out there and, you know, I've got like 40 meditations. I get all these channelings coming through, and I'm like, and I do share them, but then I think, oh, people don't really want to know. So that's the energy I'm giving out. So it's like, yeah, this is amazing. I don't have to be perfect. I just can be authentic and honest. That's where I am.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.
Yoda. Thank you. This is so empowering, you know, to hear how in a community we can heal much faster than doing our own individual little work on the sideline. That's what is emerging for me, and I've been alone all my life, you know, because those deep patterns bring shame and guilt, you know. After all the stuff that I had done, I'm still not such and such, and blah blah blah, you know. So you keep quiet and you don't speak about it because of the fear of judgment. It keeps all this thing locked up, you know. And there's one thing that I noticed, you know, which is part of that victim oppressor. It's also the master slave archetype that we have, and there is more to be said on that one. I'm just beginning to unravel that one in my own consciousness. I will speak more when I have some integrated stuff to say about it. But thank you, Fiona. Who wants to go next? Bridget, I have muted you because there was some noise coming out from your room, so you have to unmute yourself if you want to speak.
So I've unmuted myself, and I haven't written about this yet, but when I listen to people like you and Fiona who seem to me to be so far along the path of self-awareness and consciousness, and here I sit struggling to connect even with my inner body and feel what my inner body feels like. Yeah, I just, those feelings of not being good enough and not being ready, and what I have been doing with them over the last couple of days is pushing them away and being very, very busy. Doing, which is, I think, my pattern in my life. And it's great just to acknowledge that those feelings exist, and they are, and yeah, it's just good to speak about them and share them.
And this is the first step, to acknowledge what is, to be aware of what is, and everything unfolds from there.
Yep. So that's me for this week.
Yes, and trusting that you will be guided. The ocean will guide you, Bridget. I know this is how you connect. But listen to the ocean.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hayat, would you like to chime in?
Yes, thank you. It's so good to be with you. Feeling so deep gratitude for this group, for this work, for this sharing, for this stopping together, to be willing to feel these very, 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 very hard feelings that we have pushed down into our bodies for almost all our lives, and now letting them heal us in their own time, not hurrying anything. We cannot hurry this, but it can be very fast, the healing, when we have these spaces, and that's why this is so precious. These Women Wisdom Circles have been very empowering for me and a very important part, and I see now that you cannot go through these difficult feelings if you don't have the support around you, so this group is now facilitating it. And during this week, when we started this 30 days, I went it off for a holiday trip where I was really feeling, so much freedom and expressing myself and enjoying myself in such an environment where I felt at home. And the ocean, the sea was there, the Baltic Sea, which is much smaller than yours, Bridget, but still the sea. And spending time there with the beauty of let's say the old. I was in Estonia, and the modernity has not come there yet totally. There's a lot of old buildings, wooden buildings. I was connecting to that old energy of where I come from, because I don't feel at home in this modern glass, steel, environment. I feel very bad in this type of environment. So I could connect to myself deeply and letting go and enjoying myself. When I came home, I fell deep down into, again, to, you know, the black hole of depression. And but then a lady offered me a constellation group. So on Tuesday evening, I went to explore this. The topic was about money, and I got, you know, upset and angry. I said, no, not this bloody topic. I have explored this money issue for years. I'm not paying a single workshop anymore on this money issue. And she was like, maybe, Harriet, you have to think that this is an investment. I said, well, bloody hell, I have invested so much in this. So I got angry, and I got angry with my inner child on Monday. Before that, went to this. I don't have the sea close by. I went to sit on a dead tree, and there was my inner child. Suddenly, she was angry like hell, and she was like hitting my father's legs, and she has never been angry to my father. So on Tuesday evening, I met my relationship to my father. I have been carried his victim story for my whole life out of love, taking on all his suffering. So I could never be happy because I could not be happier than he was, and he was very unhappy. He was abandoned as a baby. His mother died, and the stepmother didn't want him. He was like trash, and all this shame has been in me. And I have, you know, although it has been so deep, so now I released that with that constellation work. And today I'm going back home to my roots, to my summer cottage there by the sea, and hopefully being able to forgive my father, because now I know what I have to forgive. Before I didn't know. It was like, how can I know? Because it's the conditioning I have thought was my truth. But actually, I carried his story. And I have been working a lot with women who take on their men's suffering. I did that also for my husband. It almost killed me. To carry my father's suffering, and then I carried my husband's suffering. He also lost his mother. And this is not right for us women. Everybody has to take responsibility for their own stuff. And in that constellation, the lady who was in my father's energy, it happened. He took that responsibility for his own grief of what he had to face. And then I could be free. And this is so fascinating how we are so interlinked.
Yes.
This is where I am.
Yes. Yes. Healing the immediate kind of roots is so important, you know, and I think that certainly has been the focus of my life, most of my life. And as you know, Harriet, you know, when I was in France in June, I think it was, I went to the grave of both my parents, and I released the victim energy in my downline on both sides. And it was like an extremely liberating and empowering experience that has brought me now to face the past life stuff, because it's in the field. Those energies are in the collective field. And I feel now I have a responsibility to do that healing through me and bring this out more, so more people can begin to do this work in consciousness, so we can emerge that new paradigm that everybody is talking about from the head, really.
Yeah.
You know, a lot from the head still, because so many people have gotten it, but not enough people have done the work yet. Because it is only when we do the heavy-duty work on ourselves that there is deep transformation outside of us. And, you know, alone you cannot shift the collective density in the world. It's too much.
Yes, it's not possible. So this is what we're doing, Aline. This is what we're doing.
Yes, yes. I mean, there are many groups doing this, you know. I'm not pretending to be, you know, we're not unique. There are many, many groups doing this. But I am now seeing, because I've I have heard this type of work, you know, because in some of the shamanic courses that I'm taking, this was like, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, I heard of groups going to visit different places on the earth to do healing work because of the wounding that had happened in that place, and it was kind of blocking the evolution of consciousness. And, you know, I was getting it intellectually, but I wasn't getting it because I hadn't done my work. Where, you know, it's like I was trying to understand it. I was supporting it, but had you put me in one of those groups at that time, it would have been like, I would have felt very awkward. Well, what do I do now? You know, like, how do I say what? You know, it's like I felt so awkward because I had still this this pattern, this judgmental pattern, this light of outside, more important than the light of inside guiding me, you know. So I had to come to that place first of allowing guidance to emerge whatever is next, and I never know what is next, because you know, and it's very confronting to the head, because the head has been trained to have a strategic plan. God, you know, like, I have an MBA, you know, I know what it is to have a strategic plan, you know. I mean, I have done strategic plans for my life, for companies, for, you know, and it's like, it doesn't work like this. Yes, you know, once you have a clear idea, you do need some planning, yes, but from a different place. It's coming from a different place, and it's aligning differently. That's what my unraveling of my head has been all about in the last few years. And I think it's like in the last 15 years I've been in that process where I first started by saying no to the how-tos, but still getting sucked in all the experts, you know, who have the marketing message pat to suck you in with the pain that you have, and then you spend another big money, you know, to do another program that you will not use, because no, that's not what you have come here to do. And what is it that we have come here to do? Well, we all know at that deep place, but allowing that to come through and to speak through us, and then working together with people in that collective field. There's many who are doing this now, you know, not pretending that we are the only ones, but that will emerge that new paradigm where it is not necessarily the you know, the money first, and because a lot of money has been, you know, money issues have surfaced in everybody's life, and in mine also, you know, because we will be leaving this part of the world in September, and my husband will be off the payroll, so it will be a different ball game. And, you know, we are not on the street, so it's okay. But still, there will be a different way of living. And it's about time. It's about time to bring balance to that energy. You know, what is emerging for me when I say that is like, there's too much stuff, you know. We have too much stuff that clutters us, and then we need more stuff because we have stuff, and the stuff drags us down. The stuff has energy, you know. The stuff has those old energies, and I think it was, what is her name? I think it was Teresa in the group who posted something that I really thought was very, very inspiring, and I think she was replying, not sure if it is to Kadira, I think, who was mourning some loss of her belongings that had been taken or seized or whatever. I don't know how she had lost those belongings. And what she said is like, why don't you connect to the memory of those belongings and write down what they taught you, what they gave you, what you like, the experience, and write it down so you will always have it. You can always reconnect to it, but not to the stuff, you know. And that was really very empowering for me, because the focus of my second week of this radical self-care will be on clearing all the clutter. And when I'm talking about clutter, I certainly don't have much clutter in terms of objects that have accumulated. But for me, it is knowledge, you know. It is papers. It is information. I mean, I keep every little piece of paper, you know, and then I'm looking at my shelf. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to have to pack all this. It's going to cost something to move. And I have most of it on my computer. So it will be, you know, a releasing bonfire of old stuff, so I can move into the new whenever we leave and start like a new life, you know, with new energies. So this is what I will focus on, and I know it will bring up stuff again, you know, but that's just what I'm tapping into right now that is emerging. So if you want to tell us what you will focus on, because we will do this again next week. So weekly, you know, during the 30 days, I'm going to conduct this so that we can support each other. So just take a moment and see what is emerging for you to focus on during the next week, so we can hold that space together. Yes, Fiona.
Yeah, for me, it's I've lost a lot of information on my computer. My whole Apple went, and it's amazing how liberating it was, because I realised that a lot of the information wasn't. I didn't need it, because I always know I have exactly what I require. And I think for me, it's giving myself the space to actually let the divine energies flow through, but also organizing that space so that I feel as if I'm grounded as well. And the money things are still floating away, and you know, a lot of what you've said today will really bring them up, and I'm going to go for a walk and in nature in my special place. But you know, just really being kind to myself and saying it's time to go within. If you don't write on your blog thing, so what? And then really find what get back to that, because when you're in that space of just in flow, and it's wonderful and it's so easy, and the more we do to shift these patterns, and the more we support each other, as we shift, everybody shifts. It's wonderful then. So thank you, yes, for letting me actually. It's so much easier to do this in the group, and I'm so glad I showed up today, because I literally was like, oh well, and this was synchronistic. I was meant to be here, and that it's so wonderful when you're in that space. Yeah, so a bit similar in the shifting of the which is interesting. The fact of getting rid of information and cleansing.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Yes, we know. When we let the heart, we know.
Yeah, there we go.
The file, the head, the information, the index.
Sometimes I'm too clever, you know. I've got too many ideas, and you know, slow it down a little bit. And then I think, oh, speed it up a little bit, you know. But it doesn't work like that. You've got to just find that space of you're listening to your body, and something that I'm not particularly brilliant at, but I'm honouring my body as well. my physical vehicle. And when you make the commitment, it's just amazing how quickly it happens, you know, and which I think gives us hope.
Yes, that the commitment. I have noticed. I'm just going to say some feedback now. What I have noticed, I think it was sometime in May, I said, okay, that's it now. I will create a pattern for exercises because I noticed how important it is when you are aging that your muscles keep strong, you know. And I've had this routine of metabolic aftershocks that I do every 2 days. Now I do them every 3 days because I've added swimming, so I have alternating things. And I am amazed to see how I'm able to do things because my muscles are strong now. I can jump off the floor. Before, you know, it took me, like I had to get up and I don't know how many, maybe not jump, you know, not quite jump off the floor. But I can get up and down, you know, and do push-ups. And from the knee, I'm not doing the real push-ups, but I do things that I wasn't able. So the body really responds very quickly when you do that. And now I have integrated in the last 2 weeks my food intake because that had gone off the roof when I was in France, you know, and I've put up 4 kilos. My health was going on, but it was like, okay, I'm really taking a new habit one at a time, not necessarily trying to do everything at once, because that's how I sabotage myself. That's a very good sabotage mechanism that I'm very good at, you know. So for the last 2 weeks now, I'm not eating dinner. I might have a fruit or something like at 5 o'clock, not eating dinner. And you know what? Most of my fat that I've gained in those 2 months in France has come down. Most. I still have a few kilos gone. Very quickly again. And I'm not dieting. Because before I had, again, the belief that I need to do a liver cleanse, a total water fast for a week, and then lose quickly whatever I had gained. I mean, that's usually how I do it. But this time it's like, I am tired of doing this, and I hate taking this sulfate magnesium, you know, when I do the liver cleanse. So let me try a different way. And I haven't gone grocery shopping. There's still food in the fridge, and it's going to last me for another few days before I go and replenish the fridge. Before, you know, we go every week, fill the fridge, and then I have this old pattern, my God, you cannot waste food, so I have to eat it, right? I have to eat what is in the fridge. I cannot waste food because this is sacrosanct, you know. My God, you know, like so many people during the war, because this is, I come from, you know, people who have lived 2 world wars, you know, in Europe, and my mother saying, you cannot throw away food, you have to eat it. So, of course, I'm diligently eating my plate and more, you know, which I don't need anymore. So now I'm integrating that one, and it's like, I feel so good. I have so much energy. It's like, it's just, you know, change is possible. And when we think we cannot change when we are older, I challenge you, ladies. Okay, I'm going to be 67, so okay, it is possible, you know. And I'm not hiding my age. Why should I? You know, this is the wisdom coming through. Okay, who wants to tell us what the week will bring for you? You know, what commitment you make?
Well, I'm going to speak, and it was interesting after I spoke about not speaking, you know, about saying, not saying, that I said my throat clamped up. I just could feel it all just going tight. As if it was trying to shut the door, that I'd said something that it didn't want me to say. But I have to share that, Aline, it took me 2.5 days of fire, of burning paper, to burn all the papers that I decided I wasn't bringing with me. And the 2.5 days
Wow.
burning paper. That's a lot of paper. So degrees and courses. And I just went, no, burn it. What I haven't embodied, what I don't embody now in terms of what I do and how I'm being in the world. If it was on a piece of paper, it's no use to me anymore. So and it's interesting that you're choosing to focus on the body, because in the last few weeks I've noticed that I've also put on weight, and it's because I used to get up early in the morning and go for a walk, and here where I am now, there isn't. I used to walk along a beautiful country lane, and it was just pure pleasure. There isn't anywhere here to walk, so I'm thinking I might join a gym. I don't like gyms, and I've never been that kind of person, but I need to take care of my body. I noticed that, and so that's my focus this week. I'm thinking if I pay attention to my physical body, my physical self, then I'm honoring that, and I'm connecting with it in a very real way. So yeah, so that's going to be my focus this week.
Wonderful. Okay. What came up for me when you were talking about your throat, is something that I heard yesterday again when I listened to that clearing that I've done. It was, the throat chakra collapsed in that collective when we were subjected to all kind of abuse, from the powers that be, the authorities, the Catholic Church, the Inquisition was the Catholic Church, and this was like for a longer period, 11th century and onwards, for a few centuries that was going on. And, it was like the divinity was beaten out of us by being subjected to being slaves, really. And the throat chakra collapsed. And this is the hardest part for me right now, to dare to speak, to heal that part and speak about those things and no longer shrink by fear. What am I saying here? Who do you think you are? Who dare you say? And blah, 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 and on and on. I mean, the tape, we all have it, I don't have to paint a picture on that, So, thank you, Bridget. Harriet?
Yeah. Thank you for saying out that so clearly, Aline. What you just said, very powerful, very powerful. I could feel that, opening up here also in my throat, and listening to how to speak up from another place, speaking up from the heart instead of from that. This week today, as I said, I will drive 500 kilometers up to my summer cottage, meet my brother, and going to my roots. So, and I will be having saunas every day, probably swimming.
Yes.
And hopefully not too cold, because we don't have a warm summer in Finland. Now it should be warm, but it's not that warm. But anyway, I will be in the sea and see what that does to me. I'm going there with an open mind, and I think, Aline, I have some same rituals like what you did in France ahead of me, going to the grave and also clearing the really letting go of that victim story.
Yes.
And see what emerges there from moment to moment. And I'm happy that I have an internet there in this little summer cottage, so I can follow you and share with you and hopefully join the next call.
Yes. Well, looking forward to connect again next week and report on our progress, our further healing and integration of all the stuff that we are digging up, because that process probably is never ending, you know, but we can find our balance in that process also, and that's really where I would like to go, instead of waiting to be perfect before I show up, you know, because that's been part of the pattern too. Well, you know, I mean, come on, you have so many things, you know. I mean, at one point I had the belief I had to have a PhD in everything, and I don't even have one, okay? So how could I dare to speak, you know? Impossible, you know? So it's like observing those patterns, those beliefs that have been running our life for so long, and then, you know, they might never leave fully, but we can create new neural pathways and new structures in our lives, and that's really what, you know, I'm committed to do for my life, and hope we can support each other in doing in our different ways. Each of us will have their specific area they're working on, because we are different, you know. We're part of the collective, but we are each individuals with our unique different stories. So thank you for having come to the gathering, and I know there is one person viewing. I don't know who it is, somebody maybe who was not courageous enough to go into the circle, and that's totally fine. You know, I know exactly how that feels to be visible publicly. It's a scary place, so all well. And maybe it is somebody who is not even in our circle, because this is also public. So, but I'm being okay with it now. It was a big fear of mine at the beginning. Thank you, Bridget. You kind of spoke about that one, you know. Don't make it hidden, because then it looks like we're doing something in hiding. We are not. We're not, you know. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I think the hour has passed, and I will conclude the call and wish you a great week, and looking forward to see whoever can make it next week. Namaste. Mm-hmm. And I can stay in the room. I'll just stop the broadcasting for now. Hold on a second. Let me just stop it.